Hello, and welcome back to Pop Culture Therapy. I'm Cruellica Kain.
I'm Advent Nebula.
And this week we are joined by...
Yo, they changed me up again.
Kaiji Okami. He would say he's unwilling. Really?
Very angry.
And then we have in the background for random commentary, he probably won't participate, but he might make comments, is...
Chrisalage Bloodborne.
Yes, so you may hear him randomly, but he is just going to be mocking, heckling, or commenting on whatever we talk about.
Yeah.
So normal.
Yes.
Yeah. What we're doing this time, we're going and looking at shows from either the 80s or 90s, ones that we have fond memories of when we were growing up, and we had to have watched these shows during the time frame they were airing while we were growing up, and shows we can actually go back and watch and still enjoy.
Absolutely. So that was one of the big qualifiers, because there's certain series that we all love that I imagine some of us may end up talking about, but we didn't watch it when it officially aired. So we have to be very cognizant, and we want to, and these series, at least for me, are kind of referencing what made me who I am, and what made you who you are, as well as what turned kaiju into kaiju. Because it's not who you are, because all we'd be talking about is Godzilla this, Godzilla that, if we did anything.
Yeah, so what we're doing is we're looking at American TV shows, or Canadian.
Yes, American, Canadian, because they're so close together.
Yeah. So, we're not going to do this in any formal order.
Okay, I was going to ask if it was
Yes,
going to be in order.
no.
Because I was like, I don't know if I can do this in order.
We aren't going to do this in the formal order. It's just like when we did our top 10s of the decade a few months ago. So,
Has it really been a few months?
yeah, it's
Yes.
been a few months since we did those.
It's been 12 years. 12 years, 46 winters.
Yeah, well, somebody in this room has been really dragging during this quarantine.
92 summers.
Okay.
3 eclipses and
So, what I'm going to do, I'm going to start with probably, to this date, still my favorite sitcom of all time. A show that I can go and watch at any time and just have it as background noise, and yet will distract me if I'm working on something. That's Seinfeld.
Oh, God. I honestly have to say, I watched Seinfeld when it aired, and thereafter.
Yeah, it's just one of those shows you can drop on almost any episode in the background and still enjoy it. And I was watching it as it aired as a kid, and I'm actually surprised my parents watched it, considering some of the jokes that Jerry Seinfeld had written in that show.
Oh, my God. I love that show because it truly was a show about nothing.
Yeah.
I watched, I saw clips from 2 episodes, nope, not for me. Except for when they were trying to find their car in the parking garage.
Oh, that's the best one.
That's the only episode I actually know from the show, because it's the only one I actually laughed at.
Well, Jerry Seinfeld, Jason Alexander, and Julia Louis-Dreyfus, those three together were superb. They played off each other so well.
Yeah, and even the actor who played Kramer, who kind of killed his career with stand-up a few years after the show ended, even his character was one that you could tell it's like that one person that you hang out with, but it's kind of like the tag-along because you don't want to associate with them half
Which
the time.
one's Kramer?
He was the one with the crazy hair.
The crazy hair and the
tall,
Hawaiian
crazy
shirt
hair.
all the time.
Because I've
Weird
seen...
get-ups.
Yes, the weird get-ups, yeah.
I've seen everyone else in multiple things except him.
Well, because he killed his career. But you also had Norman.
Yes.
Norm,
Norm,
the guy from Jurassic Park.
who was the postal worker
Newman.
that was for
Newman,
So,
yes,
Knight.
Newman.
Knight.
Wayne Knight.
Yeah,
Wayne
Wayne Knight.
Yes, Newman, oh my God. He was like my embodiment at that
You
time
still
of a
need to
villain.
have the throne and the Goomba.
He's looking at all of our figures. So if I'm going to go on, let me go on a sitcom route because there is no normal order. I was originally going to choose The Cosby Show. Because I love The Cosby Show. It was that show about family, that show about how you can be together as a family. And then I kind of sat back, not looking at who was the main character in the show, but looking at, was that really who made me feel like I was connected with the family? And I wasn't going to go Full House because, oh my God, that's that's not realistic by any
Yeah,
means.
that's not realistic at all.
I went with Family Matters. I love that show. Not because Steve Urkel. Steve Urkel was great in that show. But I love the family dynamic. You have a family, working class family that was working together to show the ups and downs of the family, to show the family dynamic, like what we were talking about in the past podcast with Fruits Basket, as well as how everyone interconnected with society. I also thought it was so valuable because it also referenced so many things that sadly are still playing out today. Racism. Classism. How you actually relate to your neighbors. How you relate to your own family. And how you relate to building relationships with friends. If you look at Steve Urkel as the start, he was a nuisance to the Winslows. And then as he built along throughout the relationship and throughout the series, he became part of the Winslow family. And Mr. Winslow was, oh my God, I love him. I loved him in Die Hard as well. So
Yeah, it was kind of funny, jarring seeing him go from Die Hard to this.
And he's still a cop.
Yeah.
He's still a cop. And then Laura Winslow, she was so great. I can't remember the older brother's name, but all of those dynamics. The only downside about that series is the daughter who disappeared.
Yeah, you just...
She was there in the first season and then written out completely.
Yeah, nobody really knows what happens. There's no story about it. Yeah.
There was originally 3 kids in the Winslow family.
And they wrote one out
And
of the series.
Yeah, they wrote the youngest daughter out. She was there for the first season. And then the second season came in and there was never any mention of the daughter.
Did she get kidnapped?
I have no idea.
Did she just die?
And
She just disappeared.
And nobody knows on the acting side what happened with the agent and the family.
No, nothing. There's nothing about...
They didn't recast her?
No, she just doesn't exist. It went from a 3-children family to a 2-child family. And it's a multi-generational family that lives in the house because you had the mother, you had the husband and wife, the sister, the 2 kids, as well as the cousin, all living in this huge house. I love the remodeling episode.
Maybe the timeline was changed and the kid was wiped out of existence? Barry!
So, okay, name one of your favorite series from the 80s or 90s.
I'll go with the sitcom as well, The Simpsons.
That's why I did put it on my list. What do you say, Brooke?
It does technically qualify as a sitcom.
Yeah.
Yes, it was because it made
It
fun
was the Flintstones of this generation.
But it also made fun of all of the sitcom tropes. Like when you have Bart saying in like the premiere, "What? But TV has told me that good things always happen to needy little kids at the last minute." And then we have Dr. Hibbert, supposed to be Cosby.
Yep.
And the all the stuff like Bart when he was failing his test, when Krabappel actually lets him pass, and he goes and kisses her and goes running around. I pass. I kissed the teacher. When Lisa went to Washington and had the saw like a bad deal going on.
A normal deal done in politics.
Yep.
Wag the dog.
But yeah, Simpsons is just amazing all around. It's got some of the best quotes ever, like trying is the first step toward failure.
I'm so smart. SMRT. I'm so smart. But the sad part about Simpsons is it's become its own...
still going.
And it's become a meme upon a meme at this point.
It became like that one episode from that 90s show was awful because it's like mimicking what the Simpsons would have done in the 90s, but that's not what the Simpsons did in the 90s.
Yeah.
I know. And, well, if you think about any television show, like the 70s, my God, that 70s show hit the nail on the head exactly what the 70s did.
And then that 80s show, even though it only lasted a season, actually hit the 80s on the head too.
But nobody has been able to actually capture, even though we have tons of movies about the 90s, nobody's actually...
Someone's doing it on an actual app.
Really?
The Apple app.
Yeah,
really?
But the problem is no one's been able to recapture the exact
the zeitgeist
style,
of that time.
The style and the way everyone actually lived in the 90s.
Well, I think because the 90s were so chaotic, because you had grunge. You had all of the 80s music still, with hair metal still there, with shock rock, with now grunge coming in. Pop became more prevalent.
Really
Rap and hip hop.
If you're going to encapsulate the 90s into a show, you'd have to focus more on the mid to late
Well,
90s than more the
because
early.
even the 90s TV shows didn't truly replicate the way the 90s lifestyle was
No.
because they did everything.
Yeah.
Well, that's exactly
So
it.
there, whereas like 80s TV shows feel like, you can tell they're 80s TV shows. The 90s, you could have some feel like 80s, some feel like 90s, some feel like they're even what comes in the future.
Well, absolutely. Do you have any favorite shows from the 80s and
If
90s?
we're going by sitcoms, we're going to go with Living Single.
Oh my God!
What?
Yes, Living Single with Queen Latifah.
Well, I was thinking more of the girl with the shirt bobcat there, because she was like the best one in the set.
Oh, the one
Living
who had the
Single?
German dog, right?
Yeah.
The one who's also the girl who was dating the plumber.
Yeah.
Yes, Living Single. Basically, Living Single was a sitcom with four friends who lived in I think it was either the same apartment complex or same
Next door
to each other
Well,
in
like
New York
friends,
City.
But with slightly
With
alterations.
great sisters.
Yeah.
I say it like that because Queen Latifah, honestly, in the 90s was one of my heroes.
She
I
still is
love
good,
that.
even though she's sold out now. But
Yeah, I've never heard
She
of the
was
show.
a great musician. She's a great actress. Living Single was a great
I heard
series.
of Living Color.
In Living
I
Color.
love that one too, but
Yeah.
that's for if we're going on the sketch comedies. and
Oh,
that.
we're not. Well, we're only doing sitcom, but we're doing everything.
Yeah, we're
In
doing
Living
everything.
Color, oh my God.
Yeah, Living Color.
Back
That,
when Jim Carrey was called James
Yeah.
Carrey, and
Never
James
watched
Carey,
it.
and then he had Fire Marshal Bill.
and you had all the
now the
Williams
Amazonian
brothers.
Princess that he played, that was on
Oh, Homie the Clown.
Yes.
Oh my God! Now I'm thinking of all the stuff I love about In Living Color.
So, next, I'm going with a show that's probably on all of ours.
I imagine so.
And it's one that all of us can watch at any time. Batman the Animated Series.
Oh yeah, no,
Yep.
that's definitely on my list. I
Yeah.
bet that's on Chrisalage's list too.
Well, I've only memorized half of it.
Yes, Batman the Animated Series.
Yes.
And it's a testament to how good that show was. It aired on prime time for a couple of years on Fox during its Sunday animation.
Well,
block
they
as
do
well.
that. It would air at 5:30 p.m. weekdays, and then they move the time slot again, and move the time slot again.
Well, every show moves
Yeah.
the time slot.
But yes, that one, it's like basically Batman is film noir in animation form, where they're like mini movies, and it is, for me at least, the greatest cartoon ever made.
I'll have to agree with you on that one. I don't think there's ever going to be a show that's going to be able to top.
Well, you can't capture lightning like that.
Yeah, you really cannot capture anything like that the way it did. And not just for its original run, but when it came back as the New Adventures. Even
That was
that's
after the Superman show.
Well,
that
they
merged
had,
together.
not to mention, even with the art style and everything, it was well written. It didn't dumb things down for kids, and it had top-notch voice acting from full-blown. They made sure full-blown actors would actually voice act before they cast them.
and they actually took stories from all over the Batman comics
Yep.
at the time to create the stories that they put
Well,
in there.
that and like they had Denny O'Neil coming to write the Ra's al Ghul two-parter because he wrote the comics that premiered Ra's al
They
Ghul.
What?
actually made Mr. Freeze available.
Yeah. the
Oh
way they
yeah,
did
he
Mr.
actually
Freeze.
gave them a
Because in
backstory.
the
Yep.
Terrible Adams whispered, and he was just a cheesy knockoff.
Well, that's
of
what
Wonderful
Mr. Freeze was originally. He was just a petty criminal, and then
They
they
turned him into
decide-
a romance
yeah.
character, which is
Well,
great,
until she became a caricature of herself,
which is.
I
perfect now.
will have to say the one thing I personally loved about the show when I watched it in the 90s, because we have a 2 years difference between myself and Kaiju, and then you were very young when the show
I
came
had
out.
a 5-year gap between
And
you.
same thing with you, Chrisalage. I think we have a 4-year gap.
1984, so go
Yeah,
back.
so a 4-year gap. So for me, I was coming close to already starting high school as the show was going on. And when Harley Quinn came in, because it started in 92,
yeah,
I was 12. I was going into 8th grade.
okay,
So
that's right. You're old.
go to hell.
And
But nevertheless, Harley Quinn, when she came in as a character, I gravitated towards this character so much because it was so different than all the characters I grew up with comic books. And it was something that was so important to me because I'm like, yes, and I loved villains all the time. So obviously Joker was already on there. Catwoman was already on there. even though people can argue that she's
Well,
not
they've
technically a
retconned
villain.
her into being just a thief who does good things on the side.
But Riddler for so many years, and still is one of my favorite Batman villains,
The definition
more
of
so than
narcissist.
Joker. Absolutely. And then when you had Harley Quinn come in, and Harley Quinn matched that narcissism, that psychosis, that craziness, I was like, this is what I've always wanted in a villain. And now, obviously, she's nothing.
Yeah.
Well, actually, okay, Margot Robbie is trying to recapture what Harley Quinn was back in
They're
the old
trying
days.
their best.
And
Yeah.
even for the shock value of the new animated series, it is enjoyable, but at the same time, it's not the Harley Quinn we remember.
If
in
you
the
like
show.
Drawn Together, which I did, I will like this show.
Yeah, it is from the
Absolutely.
writers. With some of the writers from Drawn Together on it, it does make sense the way they're going with the show.
So, my next series, if we're going to go on comic book, I'll stay on this route for a moment, is a series I actually loved from reading the comics first. I read the comics first, watched the animated series, and then fell in love with the movies again. It's the only time I actually ever had a crush on an animalish type creature.
Ew.
Not like that! Like, oh my god, they're so cool! It's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Well, yeah, that's the fun one.
Raph and Mikey were my favorite characters in the show. But I always loved, and I say a crush just on their personalities, not on what they were, because that would be creepy.
Well, again, I want to be a Donnie, but I'm a Ralph, and you drew the son, and it's different.
I 100% a Raph, because
Oh, I'm
Overlord
100%
villain.
a Mikey.
But does that make you a Leo? But I love Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles because it's doing a rags to riches series
Only ever-
with turtles because they're fighting turtles, and obviously it's in the name, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I was so on that train. I have watched every single episode, and just like we talked about with Batman and sitcoms and things like this, this is a show that if you put it in front of me, any episode, I'd be like, I am so down.
I can
'Cause
put them
you-
on at any time.
Yeah,
I have
and it's
them.
one of those shows you
Absolutely.
can't help but just laugh at some of the
Krang.
animation errors.
Shredder! Obviously, you prefer the more serious Shredder and all of that.
Well,
But I love the comics
I
too, and
did-
that's what I love about the
I
entire
did
universe.
I did watch the original cartoon all the time, but it always annoyed me that Shredder was a goon of Krang
He's Uncle Phil!
when
Yeah.
Shredder was supposed to be the big bad.
Which makes the latter series actually hold some more weight with the way they did the writing.
But there were some cool things in that old
They had
series.
Usagi Yojimbo in an episode.
I think
But
he
that's
was in-
tradition
yeah.
in every iteration now.
Well, yeah, but he appeared in a couple of times in the original anime,
And-
animated cartoon.
And then the Triceratons showed up,
Mhm.
and
And then obviously you had the 60s-esque car teams,
thing that made me mad,
like
though-
cool kids
the new
from
Dimension X.
yes, Dimension X kids.
The new, aren't they like something like neutrinos or something?
Yeah, neutrinos. Yeah.
Something
So,
like that.
yeah, but there were other things like, what was it? I didn't like Casey in the cartoon series.
Casey Jones.
Yeah,
was
Casey
pretty-
Jones
I,
wasn't really
I
great.
hated him in the cartoon series.
See, I liked him. He was a mock-up, but I liked April O'Neil. And then when the live-action movies came out for the first two, third one is hit or miss.
No, we don't talk about that.
It's
Yeah,
it's hard
that's
to
one.
Yeah,
rectify.
it's better than the second Michael Bay movie.
Yes,
Yeah.
but it's hard to
That's
rectify.
not a hard stretch.
But when you got the first two Turtle live action movies, oh my god, everything all together for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle series, TMNT, I was so down with it then, and I've rewatched stuff, and I'm still down with it today.
Actually, the one complaint I have with the Turtles cartoon is after the second movie, I'm like, okay, so when are we going to get Razor and Toka to replace those idiots Bebop and Rocksteady?
I love Bebop and Rocksteady. I was
And-
so mad when they never appeared.
And
I was
what-
so mad.
so Razor and Toka I wanted Super Shredder for an episode.
I
We got him in the video games, though.
Yeah, I was so mad when we got to the second movie and they were making other mutants and it was Razar and Toka and not Bebop and Rocksteady. Because they showed an image of two guys that looked exactly like Bebop and Rocksteady's human form. So I was so waiting. I was like, yes, and
Bebop,
no!
That's because Bebop and Rocksteady were lame.
No, they were awesome.
They were terrible.
They're idiots.
That's the point.
Thank you. What was the point?
If you had functioning
Alright,
humans, they
so,
would've been successful.
well, we've already taken out Batman and Simpsons for me. So I think my next one, I'm going to go with Power Rangers.
Duh.
Well, not a
Because-
shock at all.
I know,
Oh,
right?
Because Power Rangers was the show that knocked Transformers out of being my favorite show and my toy obsession. When I first saw a magazine article in July of '93 that had these dinosaur-looking superheroes in multicolored suits, I'm like, oh my god, this looks so cool. It looks like Voltron. And I'm reading this article, I was like, yeah, this is going to be premiering in August. And then like 2 days later, I saw the first commercial for Fox saying, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers premiering in August. And I'm like, oh my god, I am sold. And I watched the first episode and I was like, I am sold. And then we watched, my dad and I watched the second episode. My dad's like, oh, this must be Japanese. Because look, it's just like the buildings in Godzilla and there's Japanese signage. Like, yeah, it is. And then that's where this whole obsession became.
Oh, I know. So,
Good
yeah.
thing to do.
I watched the first 2 seasons of Mighty Morphin, and because it started in what, 95?
93.
93.
August of 93.
Oh yeah, so I watched it, and then once I got into high school, or I was really ingrained in high school, I had no time for Power Rangers. I had no time to be committed. And now I watch Power Rangers all the damn time!
My unfortunate fact, I did not get to start seeing it till '98. Because we actually lived in a rural town that didn't get Fox.
That's kind of when I dropped Power Rangers.
That's when I graduated high school.
So I actually, Lightspeed Rescue was the first series I actually got to watch in full.
Yeah, I actually had dropped Power Rangers during Lost Galaxy. Because I just got bored of Lost Galaxy, so I never really watched Lightspeed Rescue.
And Lightspeed Rescue, and then Time Force came in, and that's when I really started getting into it.
I didn't actually go back to Power Rangers until Ninja Storm was premiering, because that's when I got into Sentai.
What about you, Chrisalage?
You know, if we're
Anything?
going in that one, I was one of the few people who actually went in order because I never stopped the order as growing up. I actually went through the when they got the crystals, when they got young, when they got alien, when they went in space, and the changing in between there. And Turbo was still the worst in the set. And then afterwards, then I got to the modern ones, but I was consistent because I don't miss things. Because remember, I had uncles for babysitters, therefore the TVs were my babysitters.
Well, it was funny though, because
Oh,
I had got the Megazord and Dragonzord for my birthday. I'm like, yes, I finally have the Megazord and Dragonzord.
Were those the ones that we sold?
No, that was the original.
Oh.
And then, well, I did sell them out on eBay in the early 2000s. And then, so I got the Megazord and Dragonzord for my birthday, and then a month later, they showed off Season 2 as a premiere for like over 3 Thursdays, and they brought in the Thunderzords. And I'm like, but I just got these, and now there's new ones?
Welcome to Toy Collecting.
So fortunately, I got the Red Dragon Thunderzord the following weekend, because Hills actually had it in stock, because for a while, Power Rangers, you couldn't find them anywhere except the Aliens.
And if you don't know what Hills is, Hills was the pre-Walmart.
No, Hills was pre-Target, basically.
Oh yeah, pre-Target,
Because
yeah.
we didn't get Target in Buffalo until Hills was out of business.
Oh yeah.
Because we had Hills and Kmart right next to each other over there on Delaware.
Kmart's something that's completely out of business now.
Well, so's Hills. But, yeah, so the Power Ranger toys were hard to find for the first year, and then they started becoming easier. And then after Turbo, I got sick of buying new stuff every year. So halfway through In Space, I stopped buying Power Ranger toys.
Any other shows for you?
Are we going for...
You can go with whatever.
Anything.
80s or 90s?
Because if we're going 80s, I also watched both Sam Raimi shows. I know it's a big surprise with Hercules.
Those are 90s.
Yeah, those are early 90s.
Yeah, they're 90s.
Yeah, but with the
They premiered in 93.
So Hercules and Xena?
Yeah, I watched them both.
Xenia, I watched those on UPN, I think it was.
That's what they
No.
aired on, was UPN.
We didn't get UPN until.
Well, I watched on whatever station.
We were at on channel 2 here, so.
But I watched those. So my thing with those is I watched wrestling, Hercules, and Xena
Warner
every
Brothers
week.
is what it was.
Oh
aired
yeah,
on.
because I was a huge wrestling fan back in the day.
And those shows matched up perfectly well with the Saturday Night Wrestling.
Oh god, and Kevin Sorbo was such a dick.
He still is.
Oh yeah,
Well, it was cheese at the time. It was good cheese.
but yeah, because Sam Raimi's brother was in both shows.
Yeah, he was the guy who was the pummel the most.
The thing is, so what got me into that show is wanting to see the monsters. I have never seen the episode with the Hydra
I have twice.
because they never re-aired that episode on TV when I was
they
watching the
did
show.
what you were watching.
Well,
Because it was one of those like extra length episodes or something, so they couldn't air it in.
Ares was like my crush.
Well, I liked Ares better when he was the
Oh.
giant monster,
I liked Ares.
and then they turned
Ares.
Ares into this wimpy dude.
Hey,
Too
he was hot.
bad the actor who
Do you
played
ever see
Ares
the
died in a
episode
car
of Timeline where he was
accident.
Ares, and then
Yep.
it's just funny.
Yeah, the actor that played Ares died in a car accident not long after Xena
No, I
ended.
thought it was a stunt gone bad. I thought it was a stunt gone bad on set.
It was a car accident stunt on something else he was
Okay.
working on. It wasn't with Hercules, it was one of his other projects.
And you can thank the original term for Discord, because Discord was the natural girl
Yep.
in that series.
Yeah.
Well, my favorite Xena villain was Callisto.
Oh yeah, well Callisto was definitely someone Sam should remember, because she is some blonde-haired of
So, let's just continue on.
Let's move on.
Yeah. So, next is a show that's probably going to make a couple people in this room cringe, but you know what? The zeitgeist of that era, and I was growing up and just in junior high at the peak of this show, was Saved by the Bell, which I
Oh my
enjoyed
god,
watching.
it was almost on my list. And actually, I was going to put it on my list since you took Batman, so damn it.
I
Say-
never watched it.
I just didn't like the college years, but I love
I never even watched the college years.
Did you
but
watch the elementary school years or just the high school years?
the elementary school part of it, and then when it got into the high school years, I was in junior high and was watching it then.
Because to be fair, I watched it from when they were in elementary school all the way to the college
It
years.
transitioned over.
Yes.
Yeah, they transitioned 3 times. Or
Yeah,
twice.
5 times now, because they're doing a new version
Yep.
A new
for
one.
people of our age. So
Yep.
But yeah, I never watched it.
I loved it. Zach.
Yeah. And what that show is like, I stopped watching it when they did the movie that ended the high school years,
Yeah,
so
I
never watched
got
the college
hitched
years.
finally.
They had a movie?
Yeah,
Yes, it was
they had
terrible. That was terrible.
That's
I didn't
where-
know there was a second one. I just knew about the one I hated.
Yeah.
They got a lot.
Yeah, the movie there is where I decided to stop watching. I'm like, because it was so bad. I'm like, okay, I'm not watching the college years.
Well, because you had Mario Lopez in that, who played, oh god, I can't remember his name in the show.
I can't remember the characters' names. I just remember watching it. And unfortunately,
Kelly.
I don't have.
Well, Kelly was like the reason why I continued watching it, because I'm like, there's a character that has the same name as me, and she has the same type of personality at that. Well, not really personality, but she was like that one who
Yeah.
bucked the system type of thing.
And unfortunately, I don't have Hulu, so I can't watch the old episodes now without Hulu, because they're exclusive to that, because the new series is going to be exclusive to Hulu.
Yeah, but Saved by the Bell was
But
such
they won't be
a
able to
good
get Zach in
show.
that because he's in Blackish now as the husband to the wife in that one.
Yep.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah, no, it took me a
Yeah.
second time to know.
He's the actor who played Zach is the husband on Blackish.
He's
For whom?
his sister. Yeah, he's a hippie.
Yeah, he's the hippie. He's the hippie that married into the family.
No,
no, that's the
way!
thing. The girl who, if you remember, who's the nurse in the other.
Yeah,
movie,
yeah.
This is her childhood with her mixed family, and Zach's her dad.
No, because I love
Yeah.
Blackish. Blackish is such a good show.
Yeah, my dad
and I
was
haven't
the
watched
lady
it for the
in it.
last couple of seasons, so I am so... Because I started watching Grownish.
That one I don't know.
It's not the oldest daughter.
Oh, okay.
So I need to get back into Blackish. Okay, because I love Anthony Anderson. He's, like, it for me. So... I will have to say, next series I'm choosing is something from the late 90s that really encapsulated teenage angst, that encapsulated exactly who I was, that goth kid, that kid who just didn't fit into a crowd because I was either the pothead, I never hung out with I hung out with the cool kids, honestly, but that was because they couldn't escape me, and I was too damn loud for them. But The show I loved from the late 90s was Daria. Daria Morgendorffer is like my spirit animal. Her and Jane Lane, the two of them together. And then when Daria started dating Jane's boyfriend, I was like, he is...
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When
Jane's brother, I mean.
Oh, I was like,
Not boyfriend, Jane's brother.
Wait, what?
Jane's older brother.
There's, I don't think any show at the time had a main character that was so damn sarcastic.
As
And Daria, when that show came out, it was the epitome of the most sarcastic main character ever around. I unfortunately didn't get to watch Daria as it was airing. I ended up getting to watch the reruns around the same time watching reruns of Beavis and Butthead.
See, I watched Beavis and Butthead when it aired because, once again, it aired during the prime time of when I was in high school, because when I was hanging out with my friends at their house, I was watching Daria, Beavis and Butthead, and South Park, because South Park came out in the mid-90s. So I remember actually watching...
Yes, I was a sophomore in high school when it came out.
I know. I watched it when it first started airing, because I watched many of the episodes that you now tout and love. I'm like, yeah, I watched it when it first aired. But Daria was just such a good show. And I remember when she first appeared on Beavis and Butthead, because it was just like Hank Hill from King of the Hill. I love that show because Daria was so sarcastic. And her relationship with Quinn and her parents, I'm like, it was everything. It was everything that in the 90s was the teen angst of the 90s.
If there's any show that could actually come back and benefit from seeing what an adult version would be Daria, to see what adult working life for her would be like.
Absolutely, because that was one of the one shows, just like what you were saying, Kaiju, earlier. There weren't many shows even in the 90s that could capture the 90s. Daria was one of them.
Yeah.
Because Daria understood the cliques, the different types of cultures, everything that came together in that show. And I think it helped because part of the zeitgeist was MTV, and it aired on MTV originally.
I can think of one better than that. That
What?
only had 12 episodes. Also on MTV, Undergrads.
Oh,
12
yes!
episodes. Because that emasculates all of my groups. Because none of them make sense, but they all exist around when I'm chilling.
I also love Celebrity Deathmatch.
Well, that's just cheesy violence. Let's keep going on.
Yeah. That's cheesy ultra-violence with claymation.
Oh, God. It was so good, though. All right. Next series for you from the 80s or 90s.
Let's see. We've done Batman. I did Simpsons. I did Power Rangers. I'm gonna go with Gargoyles.
That will be taken off my list now because we're all talking about this one now.
Yes, Gargoyles. When I first saw advertisement in TV Guide magazine for this show, I said, a show about gargoyles? I don't know what it's about, but it's about gargoyles, so I'm going to watch it. And the first season was so good, except it aired at 6:30 in the morning, so I never actually watched it as it premiered.
Oh, it aired at 2 o'clock in the afternoon out here.
And then for the second season, but then it was weird because the first season, you didn't know it was the first, it was only 13 episodes, because back then you didn't know how many episodes a series it was.
Yeah.
So it's like, you had this episode with Cold Stone, and then I'm like waiting, why are there no new episodes of Gargoyles? Because apparently the season, I found out, the season was only 13 episodes, so it ended in December of that year, and the next season didn't start till September. But then when you had the City of Stone four-parter, when they actually went into Macbeth and Damona's origin story, and then
it goes to show that Disney took a risk and it worked out. Unfortunately, toy sales got the show canceled.
well, that's because the toys didn't actually match the damn show. Like the toy of Elisa, she had short hair. She was in this blue and black police, tight police suit, and came with a winged jetpack. She doesn't wear that at all in the show. Macbeth had this armored suit on that had this hook arm, grappling thing, because he came with some type of jackhammer weapon.
Elemental versions.
And the Macbeth toy, he had braided hair going down part of his back. It's these don't even match the show. But no, it was well written. It had a lot of Shakespeare in it. Which
Well,
was
the voice
amazing.
acting between Keith David and the Star Trek cast just blew out of the water.
It was funny. It had great comedy. It
And
didn't
Maya from Just You Me.
like the
Yes,
episode.
yes.
Like the episode where Lisa gets shot by Broadway by accident that they can't air on TV anymore.
See, this was a hard series for me because I love this series. But the problem was when this was airing, I either couldn't watch it because it was airing after I had to leave for school, or I was not home when it was airing when it aired in the evenings. Because this is the one flippin' show that changed the time slots so many times that I gave up.
Yeah,
And
I
then when they
gave
moved
up.
to a Saturday morning slot, it was tucked in at like 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
In Buffalo, the way
And
it
truthfully, I
went.
still got up early.
So
but-
season 2 in Buffalo premiered at 5:30 p.m. on weekdays. Then right after they did the Avalon 3-parter, the whole world tour stuff was at like 6:30 in the morning on weekdays whenever they did it. But they would occasionally air an episode on Saturdays, and our Canadian station would air Gargoyles on Saturdays. So, and then they they moved it to like 7:30 or 8 o'clock after, either right after or right before Power Ranger Zeal. I forget which in the spring of '96. And then when they did the Goliath Chronicles, it moved to ABC.
Yeah.
And that was Saturday mornings.
And when the Goliath Chronicles were just terrible.
Well, nowadays, as a kid, it was like, this is cool, more gargoyles.
It's something. It was something.
It was something.
At least
Except
it had some
except for
nanite
the
technology.
episode where the Xanatos' son gets kidnapped. I hated that one even as a kid.
I like Puck. I love Puck.
Well, yeah, that's Brent Spiner.
But then, when you had the revelation that Owen was Puck, and you're like, okay, well then why was he walking around with the stone arm the entire time? If he's a magical being, he could just unstone his arm.
I think because he was living
in
up.
character, that's
Yeah.
literally theatrical.
Well,
That's
yeah.
Puck.
Yeah, that's Puck in any story he's depicted in.
And
He's
then,
a trickster.
but then when you had that Titania was, what's,
Janeway.
what? No, I didn't watch Star Trek, so I didn't. They weren't those characters. No, when Titania was Fox's mother.
Mm-hmm.
And then Xanatos is just one of those villains you can't help but love.
He doesn't count by the end of the series. as a
Well,
villain.
and that was the thing though. He wasn't truly a villain,
He was just stupid.
but
He was Commander Riker.
he's essentially Lex Luthor slash
even
Doom
well, and that
as
was
a
the thing.
character.
None of the villains were truly like downright evil. They were like everyone had development to show you what led them to do that. Like Demona, where you were like, oh shit, she betrayed everyone. She's a villain. Oh well, there's a whole story as to what led her to be that way.
Yeah.
What about you? Any other series?
No. If we're going with that, I'll say what I watched on Wednesday in my school. We watched the Spawn series on HBO.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah,
forgot that came out in the 90s.
That came out in the 90s.
Spawn is
unfortunately.
very 90s.
Yeah,
He is
Well,
the
that's-
90s.
Yeah.
Spawn should have stayed in the 90s.
Yeah.
How dare you? How dare you?
Well, Spawn is definitely one of those edgy heroes that is definitely a 90s zeitgeist.
No, like
Oh,
literally,
yeah.
when you had to rewrite Al Simmons out of his own comics when he reset the universe and left God and Devil in
For
their
me,
own one after they wrecked it.
When he beat Malboja, that should have been the end of the Spawn comics because he beat the main villain. But then it was like, oh, who's this Mammon character that's playing chess with God and Cagliostro? Because they're having this chess on
The other Devil Kings
like
of Hell.
what?
I hear words.
That
Well,
was the representation of greed.
I
aka
read it
Sam.
and I didn't understand it.
Well, isn't that because it's McFarlane?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, with everything else that I was going to talk about announced, I'm going to go with my last series left. And it's a show that got canceled before it was supposed to have its final season. It got canceled right before its last season. And it's another high school angst teenage show that encapsulated the 90s, but with alien children, and that's Roswell.
I never watched
I
Roswell.
always heard stuff about it.
Yeah.
When you said alien, first I'm thinking Third Rock from the Sun, really?
Oh my god!
No,
That's
this was actually teen drama of a brother and sister that
Oh, that's the one that's restarted.
that
on-
ended up getting a reboot that already got canceled.
No, it got
didn't-
renewed.
It got renewed?
CW hasn't canceled any of their shows for the next year.
Wait, so Roswell is based off of that?
Yes, the current Roswell show is a reboot of the show that aired from the late 90s. Its last season was supposed to be in 2001, but it got canceled before it was going to happen.
So my next series, I was originally gonna go with Outer Limits, but since I know what Kaiju is probably gonna add for his, I'm just gonna forego Outer Limits.
Well, considering Outer Limits has 70s, 80s, and 90s series.
I'm gonna go with a series that I know I probably only watched. I'm the only one who watched this, and I still love it because to this day, the main actress who is in the show still acts like her character from the show, and that's the Golden Girls.
That's not from the 80s.
Yes,
it is.
That was
It's
an
an
80s,
80s show.
I thought it was
80s and 90s.
I thought it was a 60s show being aired in the 90s.
Yeah, you think
Nope.
so, right?
No, it's an 80s show. My God, she would have been in her 40s in the 60s. She was.
Yeah, Betty White would have been.
Golden Girls is supposed to be about a woman in their 50s and 60s.
Yeah, that show aired from the late 80s through the early 90s.
All I know is that that title was very freaking
80s.
No,
Yeah.
that title was very misleading.
What did you expect?
Well, no, I got this coloring book for this thing called Golden Girls, which was like She-Ra, but not She-Ra. So I heard there's this TV show, Golden Girls. Oh, cool! I wonder how much it's like She-Ra. Watch it. This is nothing like She-Ra.
And I'm gonna have to split the credit of the Golden Girls with one other show, and that's Murder, She Wrote. Because both of these shows are from the 80s and 90s, and the reason I got into them, and this is kind of what makes me as I am, as like an old soulish type person, is because I watched these with my grandmother. This was like two of the shows that we connected with, and we always watched and we always enjoyed because, one, the Golden Girls were so hilarious. Blanche, one of the main characters, is what I always wanted to be. Either her or B. Arthur's character of Dorothy. I either wanted to be that sarcastic ass bitch or that overly flamboyant whore when I got older. Those were always my life goals when I was younger. Just because it's like, if I'm going to be old, I am going to go out having fun. And Dorothy was just like raw to the bone sarcasm. Because B. Arthur was probably one of the greatest
Isn't that
comedians.
the lady from the Star Wars Holiday Special?
Yes. And she basically played her character on Golden Girls, just in space. And then Betty White, she played one of the main characters, Rose. And she's actually, I think, because I think everyone else has sadly passed away. I think she's the
only
last
one
living one left.
Because B. Arthur passed right
a few years ago
before they did the Deadpool movie, because they were originally planning to have her cameo in that until she passed away.
Well, that just makes sense because that's in the comics. Yeah.
And then, because he loves B. Arthur. And then Angela Lansbury's Murder, She Wrote. I love that show just because I love crime dramas, but I loved it because it was so hokey. I actually read all the books based off the series, too. But those are all of mine.
So, Kaiju, you have your last couple then.
Yeah, because...
Batman, Power Rangers, Simpsons, Gargoyles.
Oh, yeah, you're on to your last one
Yeah,
then.
I'm on my last one, which is going to be...
Tales from the Crypts.
Yes. Tales from the Crypt. The show I watch every October. Wherever I get done with on that disc, I continue the next disc the following year.
Which is so scary that he actually remembers the last disc he watches to start again.
It scares me. He knows what episode he left off on, but
No,
he's able to restart it then.
The saddest thing ever, and this is why I hate watching entertainment with him, is every time we watch something, it could be anything, we'll see a random actor on screen. Do you know where they're from? And he knows it could be an actor that was on Tales from the Crypt for 2.5 seconds, and he remembers them from all the other movies we'll watch. It drives me nuts.
He's done that when I've been over
Well,
here.
even when we were watching the old Twilight Zone, I'd be like, wait a minute, I think that's the guy from Tales from the Crypt.
Yes, he does it all the time. It drives me nuts.
And he'll be younger in obviously Twilight
Yeah.
Zone than Tales from the Crypt.
But you know you're going to have to put up with that
Yeah.
anytime he's watching any older
Do you know what they're
entertainment now.
from? Do you know
Like
what they're from?
Blade Runner. Guess what that cop guy's from?
And I have given up saying any other series than Tales from the Crypt. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But that's the first series I go to now because I'm so sick
But
of having him say
Tales from the Crypt. Like, what's his name from Hellboy?
Ron Perlman?
No. The big boss dude with the matches that tells Hellboy. The boss guy.
Oh, the guy from Arrested Development, Dad.
Oh,
why can't I not
God!
think of his
I
name
can't
now?
think of who you're
Yeah.
talking about.
But like he plays the really fat, ugly guy in the One Tales from the Crypt episode.
Tim Curry was in the episode.
Yeah, he played 3 people.
I know.
Daniel Craig, Ian McGregor.
Yeah, there are a lot of actors that got their start on Tales from the
Brad
Crypt.
Pitt was in the episode, wasn't he?
Yep,
Yeah.
Brad Pitt.
The
Peggy
Douglas
Bundy.
family.
The lady from Pulp Fiction. That
Uma
Yeah.
Thurman.
Yeah,
No,
Peggy Bundy was
no.
in an episode.
Oh yeah, Peggy Bundy was.
yeah, she's the banker for the guy who is the not the musician, but the club owner.
Damn it! Why did I say Married with Children? That was like the penultimate white trash family that was my life.
Yeah,
Um,
but do you really want to go with a show that hits close to home?
That literally was my life. Yeah. No.
But yeah,
That's
all
true.
these actors in Tales from the Crypt will be like, oh, that's the guy from Nightmare Before Christmas, or
Oh my God, it drives me nuts. I hate my life sometimes. Whatever. And then the problem is, because I've seen so much Tales from the Crypt, but I didn't watch Tales from the Crypt when it aired. I watched the cartoon when it aired, but I never watched the actual series. Not because I wasn't allowed to, because I watch more screwed up things than
well,
that.
see, I was watching.
I've always been kind of curious to actually read the actual comics from it.
I want to get the collections at some point because Tales from the TV show was actually based on 5 different comic series.
Dang.
Because the Tales from the Crypt comics weren't actually Tales from the Crypt until way later, because you had Crypt of Terror, you had Haunt of Fear, Suspense Crime Stories, I forget the other ones, but yeah, they weren't just Tales from the Crypt for years to come. But there's so many actors, because like there'll be, when we were watching Gremlins, I'm like, oh, that guy's from Tales from the Crypt, that guy's from Tales from the Crypt.
Oh,
It just goes to show you that they got as many actors as they could that were working at the time, considering they were only going to be used for maybe 1 episode.
Well, that and actors loved being on Tales from the Crypt because they were treated so well from all the interviews and stuff I've seen.
Any other series you would like to highlight
Okay.
that you loved?
If I'm going to go with my last 2, I'll go with 2 unknowns, the classic 12-season Wings and the 2-season War Planets.
Okay, I've watched Wings. I loved Wings because it, obviously the name says it took place in an airport.
Well, again, also, without that, we would not have the guy from Monk, because that
Nope.
was his starting point.
Yeah.
Well, Tony
Also,
Shalhoub got his start there.
as well as the guy who played
Haven't you
Sandman.
seen Wings?
I don't know what Wings is.
You looked like you were having
Yeah,
a
but-
nightmare at that particular moment, so I was
But
a
you
little
saw
afraid.
War Planets.
Yeah, War Plans I know.
I never
'cause
saw War Plans.
Yeah, I watched. Had you watch it with me?
Yeah.
I got the DVDs. It was the CGI show with the warring planets with the aliens. Actually, remind me of the aliens from Titan AE.
Yeah, a
Did
little
I
bit.
like it?
It was,
was a
a,
fire
it, was,
on it.
it was a show that they ended up putting on to Saturday morning cartoons as they were
But they
ending
But
because
they only aired the first season in America. I had to wait for the DVDs to watch the second season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
and I heard the second season it still ended on a cliffhanger too.
No, well, they completed the main story, but they had a little cliffhanger that came afterwards in case they got renewed.
So
But
they
it
could
had an
sell
actual
more toys.
conclusion because they defeated the Beast Planet. But it was a really cool series. In fact, it was some of the stuff that I'd love to see they do if they were like the
Yeah,
worlds were like something
yeah.
out of a Metroid game.
Wings was a good
Without that, you
drama.
wouldn't have Spider-Man 3 Sandman. You wouldn't have Jarvis for that. You
Well,
wouldn't have the
no.
redhead from Robin Hood Men in Tights.
We wouldn't have Spider-Man 3 Sandman, you said? Would that really be a big loss?
Not really, but I'm still saying he was the actor.
Wings
from
was
it.
such
Thomas
a great
Hayden
show.
Church?
Yeah, he was from. Because he was also. What other sitcom was he from in the 80s and 90s? My God. Because he was big in
I thought he
sitcoms.
was
Well, he
from that
was in-
70s show.
Nope.
Nope.
No,
He also was in Cheers for a little bit
that's what it is. See,
because he played Chrisalage boyfriend in Cheers.
And Robin Hood Men in Tights, the redhead from that was dating the second brother
Yep.
from Wings.
the reason why we wanted to kind of go with this nostalgic show is, one, even though we reference cartoons, because cartoons helped make us who we are, but there's so many good shows that, one, will never be released because they were done on videotape and it's hard to transfer and release in good
Well,
quality.
no.
Or they're stuck in continual syndication. Is the only way
Well,
they can air.
no, it's more not the videotape they can get by, they just can't remaster them. The biggest issue is the music rights. Because a lot of those shows did not pay for the rights to put the show on video.
Yeah, so they're
Oh.
stuck in
And
syndication.
because the shows were recorded in stereo sound with all the audio tracks mixed, unless they have the original files still from the original recordings of the audio, they can't remove any of that copyrighted material.
So that's why a lot of these shows are stuck in permanent syndication.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I didn't put Peter Pan and the Lost Boys on my list, is because...
Peter Pan and the Pirates?
And the Pirates, yes. Because that was an incredible show. I love that cartoon. But it's never been released.
Neither is Knights of the Round, and I'll never
Nope.
say that again.
Pirates of Dark Waters never had a proper release.
And it's hard to put things like on that on the list, because I faithfully watched that every time it aired. But it's never getting a release because...
Now, of course, in this age of the internet, there are ways to find these shows.
Terrible quality.
Yeah.
Terrible
They're gonna
quality.
Oh yeah, they're TV rips from
Yep.
VHS recordings.
Yeah,
I have
and
a
that's
TV,
literally
yeah.
the only way we're ever going to really have preservation of these shows, sadly.
Well, and that's why I like doing this nostalgic, because with anime nostalgia, those series still exist. Japan didn't do wrong by a lot of anime series. They still have them. America didn't do a lot of wrong by a lot of our series, but there's still some out there. Because we could go on, like...
And then you have the BBC.
The BBC, who had a fire that destroyed part of their catalog.
No.
And they re-recorded things.
They would wipe their tapes to reuse them. That's why a lot of the Doctor Who's are gone, because they wiped the tapes.
Well, there's that tragedy and the fire. The BBC had to lost part of their stuff, too. So there's some shows that were from the 70s that the BBC can't release.
So tell us if you like this nostalgia episode, because we can certainly do others where we can talk about more shows that we enjoyed from the 80s and 90s. And we can also talk about shows that we enjoyed that we rewatched from the 50s, 60s, and 70s.
Like, comment, and subscribe, and please leave in the comments what you would like to see.
Yes, please.
Please.
Otherwise, we will go on for eternity until we will be in another...
Okay, nihilism.
Well, thank you very much for joining us again, and please run while you can, Bloodborne and Kaiju.
I can go home now?
You are home.
Yeah, we're about to have dinner, so go.
You live here.
Yeah.
True, but that's not the point.
Yeah, or you can go play more Mega Man.
No.
Alright.
We're going to watch 01. Bye.